In the AFC West, we got two teams coming off of wins, squaring off at 1 o'clock on CBS. Raiders and Kansas City, they're third and fourth in the division currently, but the Chiefs, fresh off that Sunday Night Football win over the Lions, feeling good, looking to carry that momentum. Looking forward to this game. Always a fun rivalry when the Chiefs and Raiders square off. And in the NFL, what does this mean in terms of a rivalry? We know what's at stake in terms of the division and everything, but just kind of rank this for us.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a rivalry, but it's a divisional game. So you hate your divisional opponent. Yeah, I was going to say you hate your divisional opponent. So
just all of them.
These are the games, Emily, you want to win. Because you don't want to have the Chiefs dangle that over your head. And they've been dangling it over their head
for a long time.
For the Raiders. So when you play a divisional game, those games just mean a little bit more. Coaches always tell you the easiest way to get to the playoffs is to win your division. So you have to win divisional games to win your division. So when you have a divisional game, these are the matchups. Again, there's a little more hatred to it. I'm not sure if this is a rival game. I feel like the Chargers maybe and the Chiefs and the Broncos. Chiefs a little bit more rival than this game specifically.
Mike, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I do think that the Raiders this season did not go as planned. They thought that they were going to head into that. They were all of a sudden a team that could compete. But I think you're just seeing the fact that this roster is a few years away. This ain't quite the year. Raiders fans, unfortunately, this rivalry that really hasn't been a rivalry in the Patrick Mahomes era, I still don't think it ain't going to be a rivalry this year.
I did my best to sell it, Jacqueline. I'm trying.
You know, it's a divisional game.
Yeah,
these teams don't like each other, so that's why you tune in.
Maybe in a couple of years. They're a couple of years away from it being an official rivalry once again.
There are other storylines in this one.
Right. So and we kind of already touched on it with Rashee Rice, right? Because he's coming back off of that 6-game suspension here. And you kind of touched on it, Emily. There's momentum there with the Chiefs, which is a very dangerous thing when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. They're sitting at 3-3, coming off of that really good win against Detroit. So, Mike, how much of a boost is this going to be for this offense, especially considering what we saw in that game against Detroit?
I think it's going to be huge. They've really been using Juju Smith-Schuster in that kind of role, and he is way less dynamic in terms of what he can do after the catch and just separating on his own. Because really, with what Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton and Hollywood Brown have on the outside, there's so much space over the middle of the football field. And that's why, you know, Juju's been kind of productive in that role. But if you have Rashee Rice with that kind of space, healthy now back, the guy we saw last year at the beginning of the season, he is going to feast on this Raiders team and just everyone they play truly, because he is that level of wide receiver, and hopefully he's fully back healthy. I do think it's going to be a massive upgrade for the Chiefs team.
Without a doubt, Mike, and I love that you brought up the middle of the field because of the speed they have on the outside with Tyquan Thornton and also Xavier Worthy. It does open up the middle of the field. This won't only open it up for Rashee Rice, but it's going to open it up for Travis Kelce as well. Having those two guys together, making them interchangeable in the slot, I think that is something they've missed from a dynamic standpoint when you talk about a guy like Rashee Rice. Now, the biggest question is he's been away from football for 6 weeks. Like, how long is the acclimation period? Two, he is that guy that we saw, Mike, in the first 4 weeks that looked like he was a true wide receiver one. That'll be something I watch. They'll probably have a pitch count on him and won't give him the full gambit this week versus the Raiders. But I'm looking forward to see how he adds his skill set into that Andy Reid offense, because he was playing out of this world the first couple of weeks, and he was on his way to being a Pro Bowl type player before the injury.
Yeah, coming off that ACL, how do you think that impacts his return here? I mean, he had a lot of time to rest.
He had a lot of time to rest, and he was there throughout, you know, the offseason and training camp as well, and he participated in all the training camps. So from everything I heard, he looked really good. I believe they cleared him like a couple weeks before the season. So this is why I said, like, this is going to be an acclimation period for him, because he hasn't played real football in over a year, right? He got hurt, I believe, week 4 last year, so it's been over a calendar year since he's played real football. That's my only concern, right, getting that first hit. Also having that confidence in that knee when you go in and out of breaks, because to Mike's point, he is so dynamic. Run after the catch. That's where he can really open up this offense.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have been doing quite all right, even without him, scoring 28-plus points in their last 3 games. And without Rashee Rice, Patrick Mahomes is still the favorite to win the NFL MVP. Mike Renner, is he your MVP through a few weeks?
I got to give it to Baker. But what Baker's done with the injuries, it's like it's got to be Baker at this point. They're 5-1. Chiefs are only 3-3, but it's like Mahomes is playing his best ball that I've seen in a few years.
Yep.
I think that has gotten kind of lost in this season, is that He is not making mistakes with the football. Sans that one at the goal line that's like just lost Devin Lloyd. It happens against the Jags. But he's not making mistakes with the football. He's putting the team on his back more than ever. I do think that with the full bevy of weapons, we're going to see the best version of Patrick Mahomes, the most explosive version of the Chiefs offense that we've seen in a few years. But right now, Baker Mayfield is just doing something different week in and week out, what he's doing to lead the Bucs. So Baker's probably my guy right now. But it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes at this point if we're talking about season-long awards.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's Baker Mayfield because of what he's done. We were talking about this earlier. Like, he's been able to lead them to a 5-1 record with receiver 5, 6, and 7. Like, guys that were literally on the practice squad. Cameron Johnson comes in and makes a touchdown play. Tess Johnson had barely played the entire year. He, is added into the offense and gets a touchdown in that game. He's been able to elevate everybody's game. But to Mike's point, Patrick Mahomes, I don't think people have talked about it enough because he has kind of not been himself the last 2 years. He's playing at an MVP level right now. I felt like, Mike, the first couple weeks of the season, he was pressing a little bit too much because of the injuries on offense. And it's never good when Mahomes is leading you in rushing through like the first four weeks. I don't think he's still leading them in rushing right now. But those were some of their best plays, right, when he was getting out of the pocket and making defenders miss and picking up first downs. What I saw from him versus the Lions was vintage Patrick Mahomes when they were the number one offense after the year Tyreek Hill left, when he was able to spread the football around. Take what the defense is giving you, right? If they're going to play that too high shell, take the underneath route. He was playing with so much timing and rhythm, and even in the RPO game, like, he just knew exactly where to go with the football. That was the vintage Mahomes that we have not seen in the last few years.
Now, Mike, you mentioned it. The Raiders have been a disappointment, and part of that is the quarterback play. Geno Smith leading the league in turnovers interceptions with 10. They had a bounce-back game a little bit. Granted, it was the Titans, so we have to consider the
quite like playing the Titans to get you feeling right.
Yeah, and he still had an interception in that game, Leger.
Ball got tipped at the line, so
they're all created equally, sure. And Michael Mayer had like glowing things to say about his quarterback, which maybe if the fan base isn't feeling that, at least the people in the building are. So that is saying something, but for Geno Smith, you got to clean it up.
Literally what it comes down to is him not turning the football over. Geno, I've been on record and said this, nobody makes more perfect passes than Geno. That's the thing. He feels like he can make every perfect pass. And if the quarterback and receiver are not on the same page, those turn into interceptions. And we saw a little bit of that last year with him and DK Metcalf towards the end of the year, and we see it in the beginning of this season. I think part of the issue is they've been hurt at some of their skill positions, right? Michael Mayer was coming back from injury. Brock Bowers is out right now. Trey Tucker seem like the only receiver right now that he's really on the same page with in that offense. And Trey Tucker's had a heck of a start to his season. But to your point, Jacqueline, you cannot turn the football over. Just going back to last night's game, right? Commanders, 3 turnovers. They lost that game because of the turnover battle. So if you're Geno Smith and you want to pull off this upset this week versus the Kansas City Chiefs, they're not going to beat themselves. You can't help in aiding a loss for yourself by turning the football over. I love the last couple of weeks they've kind of force-fed the ball to Ashton Genty. They need to continue to do that as well. But Geno has to take care of the football.
Yeah, I do wonder what Geno has to be thinking because the offensive line play in front of him has been a disaster yet again. He went from one of the worst offensive lines in Seattle last year to another bad one, and they got banged up. Their best offensive lineman, Colton Miller, might be out for the season. So that's been part of it, but it's hard to watch his interceptions and blame anyone other than Geno for this. I think Leger hit the nail on the head. He's just trying to do a little too much in that offense. They've kind of retooled now. They cut Deontay Thornton's snaps down, gave them to Jack Besh last week, but then Jack Besh gets as many targets as Alex Kappa did, and Alex Kappa is an offensive lineman. So I do think that Chip Kelly needs to go back to the drawing board. You're going to see evolution of this offense over the course of the season, trying to figure out what sticks, because they have a lot of weapons. They're all just kind of role players, though. No real complete guys outside of Brock Bowers, so not having him has been so massive for this offense.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys to pick this game, but before we do, you need to have all the pertinent information, and I do need to point out this is also the matchup of the oldest active head coaches right now between Pete Carroll at 74 and Andy Reid at 67. So the Chiefs are an 11.5-point favorite. Leger? Who are you picking?
That's a massive number.
That's a lot
for a divisional rival.
For a bitter rivalry like this one?
And you see the numbers right there at the bottom, Emily. 0-5-1 against the spread when they're +7 point as far as favorites, as 7+ points or more. I'm going to go with the Raiders. Give me the points.
Okay.
11.5, man.
Okay.
Geno, get it done. Take care of the football. I believe they run the ball with Ashton Genty. I talked about Trey Tucker and that connection between him and Geno Smith. 11.5 is a lot of points. Give me those points. I think the Raiders cover.
I'm going to hold the nose. I'm going Chiefs. I love the way this offense has been playing. I think they get a double-digit win. I think they go for 30+. I think the over hits here, too. But I do just think Pete Carroll's back to his cover 3 ways. They're one of the cover 3 heaviest teams in the NFL. And Patrick Mahomes, there's no better quarterback against cover 3 in the NFL. I think he shreds them.
I don't know. Geno Smith saying he's got to jump into a lake or an ocean or something to get rid of the bad luck that is coming
Wash
his
it
way.
away. I like
So maybe he does
cleansing.
that. I don't know. Maybe the odds are going to be in your favor, Alicia. Gentlemen, we certainly appreciate it. And again, Raiders, Chiefs, you can watch it on CBS, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The full slate there for NFL on CBS. And of course, you can stream all the action on Paramount Plus as well.